Hey there, this is Jexy with the Systems Alliance, and in this video we're going to go over the fact that Australia just ruled in a study that loot boxes are psychologically akin to gambling. Duh, we knew that, but now there's proof. So obviously around the world, loot boxes are under attack, and for good reason. It's illegal gambling targeted at children and those who have gambling tendencies that are being told that it's not gambling by the publishers like EA and Activision Blizzard and everybody like that. Countries like the Netherlands and Belgium have already ruled that yes, they are in fact gambling, and now are going after the publishers who are either trying to defy them or are still putting out games that continue to have the predatory practices in them. So what happened here is that the Australian Environment and Communications Reference Committee conducted a survey of over 7,400 gamers. So obviously more than a statistical sample size that most polls are done on by about 7 times. And the study was to determine how they respond in chance-based games. The committee then presented their findings just this week on that study. And of course, to no one's surprise, they found out that loot boxes are psychologically akin to gambling. The big takeaway here is that this is by far the strongest wording yet in any study that's been done by any country showing that loot boxes equals gambling. And not just a little bit, not just like how publishers like EA or whoever will try to tell you that, no, it's just like getting a pack of baseball cards. Sometimes you get your Derek Jeter and your cards that are worth a lot of money, and sometimes you get your no-name cards that aren't worth a lot of money. Of course, the difference is that we all know, even the cards that aren't worth a lot of money still have some worth, 5 cents, 10 cents, whatever it is. Whereas loot boxes would be more akin to if you got a pack of baseball cards and there's a Derek Jeter card in there, but there's also a bunch of rat feces, and that's it. There's no other baseball cards. It's just Derek Jeter, rat feces. And you're hoping, boy, I hope I get that Derek Jeter, except sometimes you don't even get that. Sometimes you just get a whole pack and it's just full of rat feces. At least if you're getting baseball cards, you're getting people who are in the major leagues. You're getting something out of it. Someone who might be good someday, you don't even know. But you're getting something, and that's the key word. Whereas with loot boxes, yeah, they might give you something, but it's just complete trash. So there's no point of even giving it to you. But I digress. According to the committee, the levels of spending and state of mind seen in heavy loot crate purchasers is very similar to those who gamble in more traditional ways. Gamblers chase the emotional high of a big win by pumping more and more money into a game of chance. Since loot crates award items randomly, gamers get stuck in a similar cycle. This isn't just an academic distinction. The committee says loot boxes can have deleterious effects on vulnerable players. The report says that those who spend the most on in-game microtransactions are more likely to suffer from addiction to traditional gambling. By the same token, gamblers can get their fix with loot boxes instead of a few rounds of cards. It's not the same as, for example, collecting baseball cards. Once again, this is absolutely huge for the gaming community to have this be a ruling. We just talked about the 15 countries and Washington State getting together to look into this. 2 of those countries, Netherlands and Belgium, they've already said that they're gambling and illegal in their country. Their laws are not too different from any of the other European countries when it comes to gambling, nor are they too different than from the United States laws when it comes to gambling either. But now that Australia is involved and coming out with this actual study, that is huge. The committee offered several potential restrictions on loot boxes, but not necessarily an outright ban. These games could end up being restricted to those age 18 or older, the legal gambling age in Australia, or in the case of the United States, 21. And the committee also suggests that titles with loot boxes carry a warning about the presence of chance-based items and dangers of gambling. However, these are all just suggestions. Australia has not taken up any legislation on the matter, and no ruling body has weighed in yet. This is a big deal because places like Best Buy, Walmart, Target, GameStop, all those physical places, when they're selling games, they're selling them to children. They're in a section that is deemed appropriate for their store, right? There's nothing in the stores that is necessarily inappropriate for children. They tend to keep it pretty appropriate for that age group because they need those people filling their stores. They need parents coming in and knowing that it's an okay place to bring your kid to and buy things for. By putting an age restriction, basically throwing the adult label on it, I know you get games like Gears of War that has a mature label on it because of all the violence and everything like that, but to actually slap the 18 plus adult label on a game, that's basically the kiss of death. because no one's going to buy it. It's like putting NC-17 on a film rating. No theater's going to show it. It's going to make no money. And a lot of movies that were NC-17 get edited down to be just rated R so that they can get showings in the theater. Same thing here, except there's really only one thing that's going to make them adult, and that's the loot boxes. The warning label is probably the least effective one, but of course, just having that on there, having parents see it and everything, that's not going to be something that like a GameStop wants to be showing off in their store. But more importantly, they won't even be showing it off if it has the adult label slapped on it. They're not even going to have it. So as I said, there's 3 things that this body came up with during their study. They said given the relationship between loot box use and problem gambling stated above, they recommend that games containing loot boxes contain parental advisories, aka that adult sticker, which means you're not in stores anymore. Games containing loot boxes carry descriptions that indicate the presence of online gambling content, something that probably not going to want on there either. But the biggest one, the third one, the biggest one of all, is that serious consideration is given to restricting games that contain loot boxes to players of legal gambling age. So basically, either publishers like EA are going to have to get creative and are going to have to make 2 separate games, which they're probably not going to do. That doesn't seem realistic. That doesn't seem like that's going to fly. You're always going to have a crappy version of a game and a good version, and that's going to, once again, create kind of a black market for the ones that offer everything. And of course, once again, that's illegal gambling, so they don't want to do that. So they're kind of screwed in this, but in a good way, because maybe they'll just get back to making good games instead of bad decisions to rip off their own consumers. This was all EA is doing. They started this entire thing because of what they were implementing in the beta of Star Wars Battlefront 2. It was so bad, it was so pay to win, it was so full of illegal gambling mechanics and loot boxes and microtransactions that the backlash was so big. It was on CNN, Fox News, all the headlines, all the money headlines, everything like that, and they screwed themselves. So in a previous video I mentioned, oh wow, EA stock is down 10% because of Battlefield 5, but actually it's down 30% or more from their previous high just this year alone. This is why. Wall Street was catching on to what they were doing and that it wasn't good. They knew that they were screwing themselves. They knew that countries were looking into this. And they knew that their time with loot boxes, especially FIFA, their golden goose FIFA, the one who prints between $800 million and $1 billion a year for them in loot box cash, basically, that could be up. So the whole live service, all that stuff, they're going to have to find a different revenue source, and they might have to do it by just making quality games that sell a lot and that have extra content in them that is worth buying but not worth gambling for. Because really, if you think about the whole state of gaming, obviously mobile gaming is complete trash. It's full of loot boxes, and the whole thing is run on basically gambling techniques that prey not only on kids, but mostly on the most vulnerable to gambling. That's where they get most of their money from. 5% are giving them, 95% of their money. They were going on a path to get even worse with regular console or PC gaming, where you not only pay $60 for the game, then you still also have loot boxes in there. At least the phone stuff, the game is free. Can't get anywhere, of course, unless you pay. But at least with the $60 a games, well, we don't have that. Well, now they're starting to have both. So the fact that the gaming industry looked like they were in a lot of trouble, mostly because they're unable to innovate and get more money unless they were ripping off their most vulnerable consumers, things just weren't looking good. But now, hopefully, between Europe, United States, Australia, these countries coming together, hopefully they can create a market where the gaming companies have to come and realize, hey, maybe we just do things ethically for a change. Maybe that's how we make our money, by making quality games like the new Spider-Man, which sells a ton, like the new God of War, which sells a ton. Maybe they do that and figure, you know what? We don't need loot boxes to make a lot of money. We can make a lot of money by having a product that consumers want. So let me know what your thoughts on this are. Obviously, huge day in Australia, huge day again for the gaming community and the fight against loot boxes. Let me know what you think about this. Personally, I think it's a great ruling, and hopefully this just continues the ball rolling until we can get something more going, like Belgium and like the Netherlands already have. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.